Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Doing Good is Simple show. I'm your host, Chris Marlow, and today I have my good friend, Jenny Mars, all the way from Northwest Arkansas. Jenny, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I can't wait for this
Good to see you.
conversation. I have so many questions.
Yeah.
It's going to be so much fun. Real quick, just a reminder, we're going through 10 episodes of my book, Doing Good is Simple. We're asking one simple question. Is doing good simple 10 years later? So Jenny, I wrote the book 10 years ago, and
That's
I began to
crazy.
just rethink. Crazy, right? How crazy is that?
10 years.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
10 years. I remember the book launch party in Northwest Arkansas where we had a
Yeah.
big party and a celebration. It was so much fun. But 10 years later, the world feels heavy and complicated. And we went through this pandemic. And so I just began to ask, like, is doing good simple? And part of the question that we want everyone to feel, hopefully, is that we can make a difference. We have agency to change the world. So you and Dave have been a part of the Help One Now story almost from the beginning days. I mean, from the very, very early days. And you guys have your own kind of story that we'll talk about in a little bit. And so I'm so excited to jump in and ask you questions. But first of all, Gina, just tell us a little bit about yourself. You guys are, you're on HGTV, you have a TV show, you're an author. More importantly, you guys run amazing businesses. And more importantly, I know you as like people who just love people and community. And so just tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay. So, yes, we are in Northwest Arkansas and we have a building business. Dave has been building here since 2004. I joined him, I helped him all along, but I was in corporate America and then left corporate America in about 2013 or 2012, maybe. Anyway, so I've been working with him since. We have done a lot of new homes and then a lot of remodel homes. And we got a call one day in 2016 about a show for HGTV. We said no, we were not interested. They just found us. They found our town. Our town is really cute. And I mean, you've been here many times. It's a very unique small town. Not so small anymore, actually. It's growing a lot. But they found us, called us, asked us if we wanted to do the show thing. We said no. And then actually, and I'm not even sure if you may know the story, but I was in Zimbabwe in January 2017 with Help One Now, with Lamar and a team. And the kids and Dave were in South Africa. We all went as a family. And then I jumped over to Zim and came back. And I had just gotten back from Zim when we got the call again that the sizzle reel that we had pitched had been picked up for a pilot episode for the network. And again, we were like really unsure if we wanted to do this. We said we'd do the sizzle reel only because they said they were also doing a sizzle reel with another couple, and the chances that it would get picked up were really slim. So we were like, fine, we'll do it. It'll be kind of a fun thing. But then when they called with the pilot, we were really hesitant for a lot of reasons, most of all because our kids were still really young. And we had just gone through a long adoption process and life was just a little chaotic. And we were just starting to come up for air. Yeah. But I'd just gotten back from Zim. And when they called, we were in South Africa. And Dave and I talked it over after we got off the phone and we prayed about it. And we just felt like this was God's way of saying like, hey, this is a platform that I'm opening. This is something I'm giving you guys to do in order to shine a light on this work that Help One Now and John and Orpa and Zim and other leaders in the world are doing. Yeah. And it gives you just a little bit of a platform to do that. And so we were like, all right, I had just left seeing the hard work John and Orpa and their community do every day. Like they're doing the hard work. And so for me to say yes to letting a camera follow me around in order to potentially help them more in their day-to-day, then I was like, I guess we should do it. Yes. So we said yes. That became our why and reason we said yes to the show. That was in 2017. And now we're currently filming season 7, which we never thought it would go that far. We said it would just be a pilot and that was it. But we also have a berry farm here that's that we had established basically when I got back from that trip was when the berries were ready to pick, and we John had shared on that trip that his dream was to buy a patch of land or rent, however he could get it, but he needed the funds to get this patch of land because he wanted to care for the teens in the community and the teens that were living at the children's home in his community. So his concern was especially the teen boys, were basically coming in off the streets or had been in care their whole lives, and they really had no backup plan, and they had no plan for the age of 18 and beyond, because at 18 they have to leave the children's home. Yeah. And so he wanted to give them a skill and a trade. And so he had this dream of a farm training program for the kids. Yeah. And so our farm now funds that farm training program that John and his team have built and developed. And it's now so much bigger. They have girls and boys. And I mean, you can talk to it, but there's so much going on there. It's such good work. And it's fun to see that a lot of the kids that I met on that first visit have now gone through the program. Yeah. I remember one little boy in particular who they called Pastor, because he always preached to kids, and he went through the program. I think he graduated last year or the year before.
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah. So it's been really cool to see how this farm here, it's a U-pick blueberry farm. And it's, we basically take all the money we make every summer and we send it to you guys and then get it to John and Orpa, and they continue the program there. So it's been a really amazing thing to be a part of. And that's kind of something that's what we're most passionate about, but we also do a lot of work and other things. And
it's crazy.
We have 5 kids.
Y'all have, you guys do. You have so much going on all the time. Actually, you just jumped on, a couple things. Yes. One, I love Northwest Arkansas. It's been so fun to see the show even promote, it's such an amazing community. It's been a huge part of Help One Now's story from, the beginning days of Austin. Mm-hmm. Northwest Arkansas was the first community to jump on the Help One Now train and help drive the mission forward. So it's just such a sacred place. And then interesting, Jenny, I'm actually in your hometown-ish kind of right now. I'm hanging out in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. We're in Orlando.
Yes.
And so one of the things I wanted to talk about, because I think this is so critical, and it's so, as we have conversations 10 years later, everything that we hear again and again is everyone feels so overwhelmed and almost a little stressed. Like they don't quite know what move to make, because it feels like if you do anything wrong, you get hyper criticized these days. There's a little bit of people are paralyzed. And even as we think about major wars going on and economic turmoil, you hear about it every day, and all this information constantly flooding us. It feels like there's just a moment where we need to help kind of guide people to take a step back and figure out what is true to everyone's life, no matter what. And one thing that I know is true for you and Dave, and I want you to talk about why. Why is being generous and serving and doing good so important for you and your family? Because I've known you for 12, 13 years now, and at the heart of everything you do, you give back to Northwest Arkansas, you give back to Zimbabwe and Help One Now and other nonprofits. How and why is that so important for you all?
Oh, I don't know. I honestly just been something, thankfully, that Dave and I have always had. We've always been on the same page about. It's not like one of us has said, let's be generous. And it's just sort of what we've done. But I will say, when we visited our daughter's orphanage for the first time, it was like changed our lives. The adoption process, like that is a whole long story of how we decided to adopt, to where from, all of that. It's a very long story, but that adoption process really changed the trajectory of our entire life. I know it's not just about Sylvie, our daughter. It's about God used her story and brought her into our family, but used that process and her story to just change everything for us. After we got home from that first visit, she was in the Congo, and in the slums in the Congo, and we went to the orphanage, and I mean, it's hard for Dave or either of us to still talk about it. And it's been, a long time, 12 years. It was like nothing I've ever seen, because yes, there is poverty here in America. Yes, there is. I mean, there's a very broken system. Believe me, I'm very deeply passionate about foster care and adoption here. But there's also a system here. And the kids there, they were just, I mean, we went and visited, and there was, Dave and I said, I guess the best way to describe it is if animals were treated the way the kids were being treated in that place, and living in conditions in which the kids were living in America, the owner of the shelter or whatever for animals would be sent to prison. And these are children, and we had to leave the kids there, and we had to leave our daughter. She wasn't living in the orphanage at the time. We had moved her to a foster home, but we had to leave her there. And it was, I mean, it changed everything for us. We just couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe there were, I mean, we'd seen it, you see it, you know, everybody's seen it and heard about it, pictures and videos. But when you go and you hold a child that sits at, you know, on a concrete floor at night to go to sleep by itself, himself or herself, because there's no adults that stay there. They just even lock the gate. And they don't have food regularly and all the things. And you go there, it just changes everything. I know you know that too, Chris, but being there, there's just, I don't know, you can't do that. It's like you with the story with the little boy, but you have that moment, and you basically have a choice. You either, you know, go down this path of feeling guilty for where you were born and the privileges that you've been given just without, you know, not earning, but you just literally have been born into privilege, and you feel really guilty and shut down and feel paralyzed by that. Or you can, you know, say, I have to do something, and you can choose to be generous and choose to make a difference. And even if, and believe me, at the very beginning, and still it always feels like this tiny little drop that you're doing, like it's not really going to make a difference, but it is. Like, if you can just do something, you can just change the impact. Even if you can feed a kid one day, one meal, matters. That is something. It matters. And showing someone that you care and that you're going to stand alongside them and walk through life with them, no matter where they live and what circumstances they're in, is important. So I think that is really what changed everything for us and made us really view everything that we have differently. And we'd always viewed things as, you know, this is, you know, kind of open-handedly, but we really realized, like, no, we had I mean, we are so fortunate and blessed that we were born where we were. We had no choice in it. We both come from great, stable families. We're very fortunate to have a family network of support and this foundation that a lot of people in the world don't have, no matter in America or around the world. So anyway, I think that is what we kind of started the change in what was most important to us. I guess.
Man, there's so many things I want to talk about, because there's a lot in there that's so good, and it's so true, and it's so hard to, like, you know, so I want to talk about the word privilege, because I just think this is so important. Oftentimes when we hear the word privilege, people get a little angry, but that should be like a very blessed scenario. Like, one of the things I love about, like, if you're privileged, that's a blessing. Like, you have a great family, you have access to opportunity and wealth, or, you know, progress that you can make. That's a beautiful thing. But the power behind being privileged is also doing something with the privilege to help other people have the same opportunity that you have. And so I feel the same way. I grew up in a much more privileged area than the people we serve around the world. And now that we get the chance to give back and help. And the reason we chose Help One Now is for the thing you just said, Jenny. If you look at the meta, it can feel overwhelming. When you look at the micro, it's about friendship. It's about, in your case, in my case, about this little community in Zimbabwe. It's not just about donating money to some far off land. These are people we care for. They're transforming our lives. We're transforming their lives. There's a deeper connection together.
Absolutely.
And I think the encouragement for anyone is, if you feel overwhelmed, just remember it. This is more about friendship and connection than it's about changing the world. We can't do that. So I want to just segue, Jenny, into this really unique thing. Help One Now celebrating 16 years tomorrow. It's our birthday.
That's awesome.
So when this show's live, this will be celebrating 16 years. and we're launching this thing called Simple Summer Campaigns. When you and Dave were getting involved in Help One Now, we were in the stage of a nonprofit where we were raising a lot of money by doing garage sales, lemonade stands, these really, really simple acts of kindness. And that was the thing that kind of created this viral moment. We had a lot of influencers like yourself and a whole bunch of our friends who would be promoting. So have your family throw lemonade stands, garage sales. Northwest Arkansas raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in garage sales that we were able to give back to help one child eat, to help one family start a business, to help one leader launch a church. It was really that kind of thing. And now we're doing 16 years later, we're going back to that because we want people to be able to feel engaged and not just writing checks to donate. You and Dave have done such a phenomenal job of including your kids in everything you do. I actually remember your kids raising money for Help One Now for the last decade. Just these really beautiful, tender moments of kindness and connection. Can you just share a little bit how you all have integrated your family into kind of the entire, not only life that you guys have, but into the doing good and giving back part and why that's important?
Oh, it's our most important job is to raise humans that are kind and generous, I think. So the kids have just always, I don't know, we just do everything as a family. So it's never been it's just something we do. The kids have always been involved in all of it. When we first planted the fields, the blueberry fields, Charlotte was a baby. She was on my back in the carrier, and all the kids were alongside us, and our friends and their kids were there. It was always a family thing. And every year when we would have the berry picking season, the boys always have done a lemonade stand, and they donate the proceeds to Help One Now. I remember I have a picture of you one time when they were giving you the cash, and they were so excited. And again, I think you said it. It's all about friendship. And Dave and I say it all the time. It's relationships. And so our kids are out there working all summer, picking berries, picking weeds, mowing. Now the boys are older, so they're mowing. They're helping fix irrigation lines. They're fixing fences. The kids are a part of the work. And they're doing it because they know and love Pastor John and Orpah. And they don't necessarily know all the kids in the program, but they know and love and trust Pastor John and Orpah. They have visited our home several times. We have done many FaceTime calls, and we send photos back and forth, and they are just part of our family, and we love them. And so when we say, hey, we got to go work in the fields, and we have 3 teenagers now, keep in mind. So they're not always cheerful about it, but we're remember why we're doing this. And Dave and I say this about everything. Remember why. You have to have a why of why you do anything. And for us, we always say, remember why. And the other night, 2 weeks ago, we had a dinner here. We did a fundraiser for the program because we're actually changing the model this year because of what you said. We want to simplify things. We also feel like we tried to do this big event, and it was great and it was awesome. And we brought a lot of people to the farm, and we raised a lot of money, but it felt to me the past couple years, I had been feeling this tension of it felt disconnected to the story. And I didn't like that. I was like, I don't want you guys just to come here and not know what you're doing here. So we did a dinner. We held a dinner here the other night, a week or two ago. I'm not even sure now. But we got to share the story with everyone. There was 30 people there. So it was a chance to connect, real deep connections, real conversations. We got to tell stories of our time there. Lamar was here. He got to tell Help One Now stories. It was all about the connection. And so our kids, our teens had to babysit the littles. And they were like, oh, we have to babysit. I'm like, yeah, because what we're doing? We're going next door and we're having a dinner and we're raising money to send to John and Orpah. And they were like, oh, okay, got it. And it's like they get it because they love these people and they know the work that John and Orpah are doing. We're not just, it's not, like you said, it's not just this entity, it's our people, and we're helping our people. And so I think that's what's encouraging too to anyone is you can find your people. You can do one little thing, meet a neighbor. We actually just lost our neighbor who's a dear friend. And he was the best example of this. He would just show up at our house with things that we needed that we didn't even know we needed. Like he'd look outside and see that the sheep needed hay, and he'd come over because he knew we were busy, and he'd drop hay for our sheep. And that was just his way of caring for us.
Amazing.
And I think that when you, like you said, when you look at the big picture, it gets real muddy and real cloudy. But when you look at one person who you can help today in one simple, tangible way, that's how you make a difference. And that's how you model generosity for your kids, is not writing a check, because your kids don't see that. It doesn't mean anything to them. You know, that's really intangible to them. But when they see you physically doing something and they join alongside you, that's where it really makes a difference. And for us, it also includes traveling with our kids. It's really important to me, because we had this conversation earlier offline, but like the global community is important. It's important not to get caught up in our little bubble, in my opinion, because God made us all. He didn't make just West Arkansas. And so for my kids, it's really important for them to see other cultures and communities and ways of doing life. And we have friends all over the world, like dear friends, like not just like we're calling them
these
friends,
are people you
like,
miss,
they're
right?
dear
You like, oh, I wish I could spend more time with them.
Yes, we text all the time. Like I think of like Annalene and her family in South Africa who came to visit us last year, and we're trying to get back. And we have really good friends in Italy that my parent and my kids call Nona, and they're grandparents. Like we call them family. We have a family group text going with our friends in Italy. It's called the family group text. And I mean, it's all about like listening and connecting. And even when you're in a place where you don't speak the language, like just, you can still connect. And I think that for me, that's really important for our kids to see, because they have a broader picture of what the world is and how different cultures and different languages, and we look different and we eat different foods, but it doesn't matter, because at our core and at our heart, we're all the same.
All the same.
And I think a good example of that is like when we're traveling, the boys would always bring a soccer ball. Anywhere in the world, if you have a soccer ball and you're a boy, you can make friends and like go play soccer. It's a connection. And I think that's so powerful for them to know now as kids, so that when they're older and they have someone that they're interacting with that's different than them, that they don't view them as the other. It's like, oh, well, surely we have something we can connect, and surely there's a common place here. So yeah, it's really important to us. It's like the fabric of our family, I think. I'm very passionate about it.
Well, it's good, because I think it's when you feel the anger in the world, and you recognize the reason we're so angry at one another is because we no longer are sitting around a table having conversations, right? We've all, no one's perfect in this, we've all created echo chambers, and it's important to break out of our echo chamber. And whether it's traveling around the world, or to your point, being a neighbor and going down to the farm next to you and helping out, we can break out of our echo chambers and be a part of something more beautiful. And I think one of the things I would encourage, and I think you and Dave have done this well, is when you do get to connect with other people, it just creates such mercy and compassion and connection. And it creates what I think is a more loving world. And so I want to ask you two questions, maybe with your kids. One, how would you encourage other parents to do this as well? And then two, have you seen the fruit? Like when you look back at like 12 years later of traveling and them being a part of a lot of local you guys are involved heavily in Northwest Arkansas and Zimbabwe helping now. Have you seen the fruit? Because I think what every parent wants to know is, am I raising a good child, and how do I help them become, what does good mean, and how do I help them? How do I know that they're good? And so have you and Dave seen the fruit of kind of the investment you've given your kids as they're now teenagers and getting older, and having to watch kids in fundraisers when they don't want to? They're teenagers. Like, come on, Mom.
Yes. Oh gosh. I mean, you never know, I guess. Really, we don't. But I do believe we've seen a lot of fruit in our kids that's like just little things in the way they I see them, like our oldest, he's 1 minute older, but he's the oldest, the twin. And I've seen him like just see a need, even just with his siblings, that he just sees the need and then he goes and takes care of it. Like his brother, I mean, just yesterday, Luke was just kind of running around, and Ben, who's 14, almost 15, was like, hey, you want to go jump on the trampoline with me? And like, that to me is like, that's just so kind, because he didn't need to do that, because his brother was upstairs. They were start to play video games, and he's like, no, I'm going to go play with my little brother.
Okay.
So like that kind of stuff you see, but then also bigger when they, they have all their friends over in the summer, and they run this lemonade stand, and they have like a group of friends that they hire. And then at the end of the day, they count their earnings, they pay their friends, and then they donate the rest. And they keep a little for themselves too. We taught them, like, that's good. You worked hard, keep some for yourself. And then their friends in turn are like, oh, well, we'll donate some of ours too. And like, that to me is amazing. Cause that just, I mean, they could have just kept it. They worked hard, but they didn't. And we never asked them to donate it. That was their choice. So that's really amazing. But I also think I don't know, traveling is, again, like it's just a big part of our lives. And it's something that I know it is, again, the word privilege, because I know it's not something everyone can do, but it is something we prioritize as a family. Like, we save up. We don't spend money on very many things except for traveling. Honestly, it's really important for us. We have miles, we have everything. Like, that's the thing we do. And what I think is cool is that to them, it's not like weird or like this big thing. Like, when, like, we go to we had all these miles this past winter, and I had 1 million miles. I was very excited in my account. So at the last minute, I was like, we're going to Italy because we want to see our family there. I'm going to spend New Year's there with them. And the kids were like, oh my gosh, we get to go see, they were excited to go see them. They weren't like, oh, we're going to Italy. Like, it wasn't like, for me, when I was a kid, I didn't fly until I was 18. Wow. So for me, it was like this huge thing to be able to travel. Wow. So for them, I think it's all about visiting our people. Yes. And, I don't know. I don't, like, we're not like going and seeing all the sights. We're going and we're having dinner with our friends. Like, that's what we do every day, and just like hang out with our friends and go play sports. And it's just visiting friends. They just happen to live somewhere else. But I think in terms of, how to do that, it doesn't mean you have to make friends with people overseas, but people do ask me, like, well, how do you make friends? Like, what do you do? Because I have, a lot of people ask me that. They're like, how do you have friends like around the world? And it truly is just connection, like asking people about themselves and learning a little bit of the language and asking questions. And I think just the idea of kindness around the world is very much appreciated. And so even if you're traveling to go visit North Carolina and you meet someone in the restaurant and you're kind to them and you spark a conversation, that's how friendships start everywhere. And I think it's easiest with kids because they can just make friends with anyone, and it gets harder as they get older, especially like teenagers. It's really difficult. But I think, again, like having something tangible, like for our kids, bringing a basketball or a soccer ball is like the immediate connection starting point. So anyway, I don't know. I just kind of rambled, but I also think that finding those people in your own community is really important too. And I think sometimes we get caught up in like, we have to do this, like we have to go work at the food kitchen as a family or whatever it is. I don't know, whatever that thing is that feels like we're serving. And we can check it off the list on Thanksgiving Day that we went and served as a family. And now we move on. That's not it. It's every single day. How do you live your life and what's important and how do you spend your money and your time? And that's what you're watching. And serving, again, like I said, with our neighbor, the neighbor that we just lost, his wife is alone now. And so serving looks like my little 5-year-old who goes and checks on her every day after school, just to see how she's doing, to give her a hug since Bob passed. And like, that's to me, like, that's the fruit, is that he's thinking of someone else before he thinks of, I want to go play. He's like, I got to go check on Miss Jill and give her a hug. I love that. So I think that's just making your life, just making it part of your life, not once a year big thing.
There's not like this strategy that you're playing out all the time. There's just like this human connection. And when I think of you and Dave and all the time, you all, maybe more than anyone, it's interesting how everyone feels like they're close family to you. Like, we can just bring a stranger in from a restaurant. All of a sudden we're at the farm
Yeah.
hanging out for an evening. You're like, hey, we've only known each other for 8 minutes. I thought we've known each other for 9 years. We're like, what is happening here? And you guys just integrate anyone and everyone into the flow. It's always going to be a little chaotic, but it's going to be fun.
It's chaotic. Well, and I think that's the key, actually, is embracing the chaoticness of it. Because if you're so worried about impressing someone and making sure everything is perfect and you have this perfect meal and everything looks great before you invite someone over your house to sit at your table, you're never going to invite someone over to sit at the table. And our kids, I mean, we have 5 kids and we live on a farm. It is chaos all the time. And so if you're coming over here, you're stepping into chaos, but there's so much beauty in that chaos, because when you come, you feel like, oh, I don't have to be perfect either, because this place is not perfect and these people are not perfect.
I love it.
And that's so important, because that's the only way you can connect. If you're all pretending that everything's perfect, then you're never going to make that connection, because you're just pretending. You're not being authentic.
And Jen, I know you've written about that, and you have a book coming out, but a book you did a couple years ago. And so I think it's it's so important to, like, individualism is not the thing that we want to do in this world. We want to have community connection. And I think in so much of the American spirit's built on this individualistic side. And there's a reason behind that. That's neither here nor there. But the point of it is, if we're not in community, we're in trouble. And, like, it's harder now than ever to find community. And I think, the encouragement would be like, if you feel lonely, you have to take a risk and find a community, and a community that's, like, going to help take care of you, and you're going to help take care of the community. And I want to actually just end the episode with kind of that question, because this is me talking about you all. This isn't you saying this about yourselves. And so I believe you and Dave, exactly. I believe you and Dave have done something that almost everyone's looking for. And I think there are, like, 5 things people are searching for in the world. One's faith. Number 2 is family. 3 is friends, connection, community. 4 basically is vocation, business. Like, am I successful? Oftentimes, even in the faith-based world, we don't realize, like, being ambitious and successful is really important. Like, without it, we can't do. All the leaders we partner with around the world are incredibly ambitious, successful leaders. They want to make things happen in their life. And then I think the 5th thing, and what's often overlooked, is just something bigger than ourselves. Whether that's a farm in Zimbabwe or a neighbor in Northwest Arkansas, like, if there's not something bigger than ourselves, you and Dave have done all of those 5 things, maybe better than anyone I know, with a little dash of chaos and fun. It's so much fun. And I know you're going to say this is almost, you guys flow in this natural way where this is just who you are, but there has to be some intentionality behind it. When you and Dave are talking to one another as a husband and wife, how do you keep all of that together moving forward with all that you have going on? Because I know so many folks here they want to achieve that or grab onto that, and they just need to, like, maybe to learn how to do that. Because I know it's not perfect, and I know it's not always stacked on top of itself. But ultimately, you guys have been doing this for 20-something years now. How have you kept it all together and continue to do good and give back to the world? I'll look at it up.
Okay. So actually, it's funny because we were just talking about this. One thing that there's a lot of things I would say, but one is that I don't think it's the right word. And I was saying this the other day because we were having this conversation. I don't think it's the right word, but it's the only word I can think of is we both are really good at compartmentalizing things. And again, I don't think that's the right word, but when we have a lot going on all the time. I actually was just working on I like to have a real calendar. I like this because I like to see it. And I was just working on this and it's chaos. Yeah. And I have 2 of them. So, and I still got the time wrong when we were supposed to do the podcast. I was sitting here waiting for you and I was an hour early. So that's it's chaos all the time. But when we're doing the one thing we're doing, like right now, the only thing I can do right now is be here and be present doing this. All of this is going to have to wait for a hot minute. And it's the same thing with our kids. Like when they have something at their school, I'm there and I have to be there. And if it's an hour, I have to be present, or else what's the point of being there? And I think that's really important. I think it's something that, because of all of the ways we're connected to everything all the time, it's really hard to do. And and it's just about being present, obviously, but I like to say it's compartmentalizing because I have this one box right now, and all the other boxes I have to just close and focus on this one. When this one is done, I can move it aside and focus on the other ones, and usually they're all open and spewing everywhere, but then I have to choose one, and I have to focus on that one. And Dave and I both do that, and like we literally get so much done. And people are always like, when do you sleep? And I'm like, it's because we have to just do the one thing. So like, we'll wait until like, we have an event here on Friday. So like Friday morning, we'll worry about it. Until then, we have 100 other things to do. But Friday morning, we will both get it done. Like, we can get anything done when we're both in that one box that we need to be focused on. I love it. So I think there's an intentionality of just being present that is lost a lot. And I think it's also lost in parenting. And I mean, I'm not saying we do it perfectly at all, but when we're doing 100 things and our kids are trying to talk to us and we're like looking at the phone or the calendar or making, like it takes 5 seconds to stop and look at our kid and have a conversation and focus. And I don't do it perfectly all the time, I promise. But when I do, I catch myself, oh, I'm so glad I did that, because it's that connection moment again. So I think that there's a element of being intentional about being present. And then I think it all goes back to faith too. All of the things that we've done, everything we've done, we have been very prayerful about before we've said yes to anything. And 99.999% of the time, when we said yes to something, we said yes to like one little thing. And we had no idea where God was going to take that one little thing. And it's just a step of obedience and saying, okay, Lord, we're going to do this, like the pilot episode. Okay, Lord, we're going to do this because we know you're telling us you can use it. So we'll do it. But that, like, I didn't think 7 years later we'd still be doing this. I had no idea. We planted the berries before we knew what we were going to use them for, but we knew we wanted to use them some way. We just didn't know what it was going to look like. We hadn't even met John and Martha at that time. So it's all about like just praying, like when something presents itself, an opportunity, praying about it and deciphering and discerning, is this a yes or is this a no? And I think for Dave and I, it's both of us praying about it on our own and coming together and saying, okay, what do you think? And I think this idea of discernment is also really hard for people, but I think it comes down to just feeling at peace. When you feel that peace about a decision, like for example, how we decided to change and not do Berry Fest this year. I was really nervous about it. Like, this can't be right, but I felt such a peace about it. And when Dave said to me, I think you're right. I think we shouldn't do Berry Fest. I think we should change it. And that was when it was like, okay, God's going to do this. And you know what? We had this dinner with 30 people and we raised enough to fund the program. And we still will have a berry season, but it's going to look different and it's going to be sweet and simpler and all those things. But it's all about just praying for discernment in that one little thing and then trusting God for the next step and the next step and only worrying about that one little step. Because if you worry about changing the world, as you say, like that's too much. You can't do that. And where do you start? So I think those two things of just being prayerful together, being prayerful is really important because for us, we'd be on the same page. But then when we do say yes to something, being present in that thing, even if it's really chaotic 90% of the time, and that 10% of the time we're focused on the one thing, we have to be focused on the one thing.
Jeannie, I love that.
I don't even know.
No, I love it because as we think about celebrating 16 years and trying to make the world more beautiful and better, one of the things everyone has to evolve all the time. And I see some people jump in and, they really make a short-term impact and they burn out and they don't evolve. And so one of the things we all have to do is evolve. Berry Fest was great for 3 or 4 years. Now you've evolved it to something else because you guys have a lot more time demands with kids and sports and all these things going on. And so, 16 years, Help One Now still doing what we love to do, empowering families. For 12 or 13 of those years, you and Dave have been two of our largest, most impactful, and this is the thing people don't realize, most faithful. The word faithful is a superpower in our generation because it's so easy to not, because it is based on friendship and partnership and like a deeper connection than just an activity. And so I want to say thank you you and Dave for being a huge part of Help One Now. I would say the amount of money you've raised, you guys said yes to a pilot show, and the amount of money and impact you've raised 7 years later, I won't share that publicly because that's your story, but it's a significant amount of money that together we've been able to make an impact with two of our closest friends, John and Orpa, and this community in Zimbabwe. Yeah. And so thank you for being on the show. Thank you and Dave for doing what you do. Yeah. And friends, just know this is the final episode of Doing Good is Simple. Hopefully you watch all 10 episodes and you come away with one thing. And the one thing is this: you have agency to make the world better with your local neighbor or with someone around the world, but you have the gift, the impact, gifts, talents, passions, resources. And if you are intentional and focused, you can make the world better. As a matter of fact, we need you to help make the world better, whether that's with Help One Now or a church or a nonprofit around the world or in community. Just know we need you to love your neighbor, to love God, and to help make the world better. Thank you for watching the show. Jeannie, thank you for being on the show. Miss you and Dave. And